Hi, I'm Pryke. I'm a founder and entrepreneur and a Oneday mentor. Before I was an entrepreneur, I was a student. I founded my first business when I was an undergraduate. While I was at university full-time, ran that business and grew it to become the largest business in its category in the UK. And then I sold that business in 2011, and since then I've done all sorts of things. I've sold artwork on board cruise ships in the Caribbean. I ran a nightclub for a while. I worked in the education sector for a charity, running a big commercial operation in China. And more recently, I founded a restaurant business, which we also sold, and a software business. And now I consult and work with early stage software businesses, helping them set up their commercial teams. I always describe being an entrepreneur as an itch. It's something that needs to be scratched. And the founders that I kind of identify and I work with through the Oneday program, they've all got that itch. So even if they're in corporate jobs, they kind of know that's not right for them. And I think I've always had it. You know, I when I was at school, my parents lived abroad and I sold T-shirts that they bought in New York that you could only buy in New York and sent to me at school. And I used to sell them out of a suitcase to my friends, you know, like Abercrombie and Fitch before you could buy them in London, and a couple of other brands, and Apple stuff as well when you couldn't buy iPods here in the UK and the dollar was a really good exchange rate. My dad would send me 5 iPods and I'd sell them to my friends at school at a profit. So I think I've always had that kind of itch to do something differently. And there's an alternative universe where I'm in a corporate job, right? I had 2 options when I was at university. I could have gone and been a corporate solicitor. I had a training contract at a big Magic Circle law firm that I was going to go and do. Or I could keep running my business and try and grow it, the business that I founded while I was still at university. I'd have made a terrible lawyer, a terrible solicitor. And I've been lucky to have some success as an entrepreneur. And I think the things I love about it are, solving real problems for customers, like actually working with people to find out what their problems are and helping them to solve it. There's something really compelling about that, something really exciting. And there aren't many jobs where you do that, right? Like, I've always found really strange about being a corporate job is this idea that you have this tiny sphere of influence in your job. You work at, GlaxoSmithKline or like P&G, and all you do is this one thing in this massive machine. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you do everything. You get to be a bit of everything and you get to be involved in all parts of the machine of your business as it grows. And I've always just found that really exciting. I can't imagine really doing anything else. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Being an entrepreneur can be lonely, and it can be, you have a lot of responsibility and it can be very overwhelming sometimes. I made so many mistakes. I don't even know where to start. In my first business, because I was 19 when I founded it, I didn't know you had to pay VAT. I had no idea what a VAT bill was, or paying tax for a business. And I got this letter in the third quarter I ran the business saying I owed, tens and tens of thousands of pounds in VAT. And I had to go to my grandmother and borrow the money. Had to go to my nan and say, hey nan, can I borrow some money so I can pay my VAT bill? Because I had no idea. And that's just that's quite a technical mistake, but also just, launching things too late, not listening to customers, all these mistakes I made. And, one of the things that I wish I'd had, and I'm glad to offer to other founders now, is someone who's made those mistakes before me to kind of keep me away from making them myself. And I think that's one of the things that founders really appreciate about working with mentors, is that we've done all the mistakes. And it doesn't mean you won't make them, it just means that when you do, you're a bit better prepared and you're more agile in terms of recovering from them. That's really where I have expertise, is in helping founders find that product market fit and in those earlier stages. I think more broadly, a kind of cheerleader, someone to be on your side and to work with one-to-one. We build very strong relationships with the founders we mentor. And I know all of my founders' businesses pretty intimately, inside out. And I'm really excited to work with all of them, and I become part of their team. There was a founder I worked with a little while ago with Oneday, and he's a really great engineer. He was building a kind of productivity notebook system, like an actual physical paper notebook. And when I started to speak to him about what it was he was trying to solve and the problem that he'd built this notebook and he designed it and he'd had 1,000 made and he was trying to sell them, actually what it transpired to be was he was frustrated with the way that people like organize knowledge and the way that they kind of think problems through. And it wasn't really playing to his strengths. And a big part of the work that we do in the early stages of the Oneday program is founder problem fit, founder idea fit. And when I worked with this founder and spoke to him a bit more, we realized that there was like a software solution that could be made and that he could engineer it. And since then, it's a deep tech solution, so it takes a long time to build. He's been working on that alongside, getting some really exciting early interest from customers and talking to them and doing those customer interviews. And it's that kind of insight. Sometimes when you're a founder, you're kind of too zoomed in to your own idea and too stuck to it. And we help, one of the things I really helped that founder do was zoom out a bit and really get to the meat of the problem that he was trying to solve. I think problems that founders face, one is, coming into the kind of mindset of running your business with the lean methodology, which really asks us as founders to not get attached to our ideas and not get attached to parts of our idea. Whether that's the kind of branding and the brand name or the product itself or the problem, any of those things. And I think one of the things that founders struggle with, and Oneday has done a really good job, and we work really hard as mentors with founders on, is how do we put a system in place to identify when that's happening? So how do we understand when actually we're not building the right thing? There's that great quote from The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is, the goal of a lean startup is to build the right thing that customers want and will pay for as quickly as possible. And that's really hard to do. It sounds so simple, right? But it's so hard to do. And that for me is the thing founders struggle with the most, and that we've now got a really good handle on and a really good system for helping them achieve that. Don't make launching your business one day, make it today, right? The best time to launch a business is today, and the only better time than today to launch your business or your product is yesterday. But you can't do that, so don't wait for tomorrow. So get stuff out there. I think a lot of founders, they struggle with perfectionism. They wait until the product is perfect, and that again is just not necessary. And I think the second thing is building resilience and persevering is so important. There's so many times when quitting seemed like the right thing for me, or folding the business seemed like the right thing, and it wasn't. And I kept going, and it's really hard, again, really hard to do and really demoralizing. But that resilience, that perseverance, you run an ad campaign, you get no responses. That it's really easy to just think, it's not right, I'm going to quit it. I'm going to stop doing that. Whereas actually leaning in and continuing to iterate and persevere is something that all founders need, and all founders need to build. When I look at Oneday as a kind of program, it offers lots of the things that I feel that I could have really used when I was an aspiring entrepreneur, when I was either a first-time entrepreneur or even a second or third time, right? Things that I could have really done with. And I think those things are so fundamental in assuring success, or at least getting to the stage where you de-risk the business and the chance of it failing. That's the thing that I find so compelling. One of the things I find so compelling about Oneday. And those things are, the one-to-one support from a mentor, someone who's done it before, made those mistakes, and is kind of there to support you. The actual kind of curriculum, the content, there's so much crap out there online about what it is to be an entrepreneur, whether it's hustle bros on LinkedIn or just poorly written AI generated Medium articles, right? I think this highly curated, well-crafted curriculum with a system behind it is really valuable. And the third thing is the kind of network. So the rest of the founders, the events, the kind of opportunities to be part of a community of entrepreneurs who are going through the same thing as you. That's super important. And there's another thing about Oneday that really drew me to it when I first started mentoring founders with Oneday. And that was when I spoke to the founders of Oneday about their idea of what entrepreneurship is like entrepreneurship and being a founder is not just being like a Silicon Valley tech founder wearing an Izzy Miyake roll neck. That's not what being a founder is. And the breadth of the businesses that you're able to work on through Oneday and with the Oneday system is really appealing to me. I've spent a lot of time working in like entrepreneurial education and helping people launch businesses, and all too often, the kinds of businesses that are accepted onto programs like this, the kinds of founders that are supported by programs like this is really narrow. And that's not something that I think is kind of a problem at Oneday, and it doesn't affect the kind of rigor of the program or how impressed I am every day with the founders I work with. And that's really, I think it's really cool. It's really cool for me to get to work with founders from all walks of life and founding all sorts of businesses. And that's something that really shouldn't be, in my opinion, underestimated. I've been working with Oneday now for a while, and one of the reasons I'm still here, and I'm, like all of us mentors, we all have our own lives and our own businesses and our own things to run. Like the reason I'm still here and I work till 10:30 p.m. every day on Oneday calls is because I really love it, and I really think the value it offers is extraordinary for founders, and that's really cool. So yeah, I guess one final thing I'd say is to any founder thinking, or any aspiring founder thinking about whether this is right for them, I'd say just go ahead and do it and make the application, go through the process, talk to the admissions team, talk to a mentor about your fit in the program, and that's the only way you're really going to see what this process could do for your idea and changing the prospect of your business and giving you the kind of freedom that I think entrepreneurship brings and that everyone kind of deserves.